Hey, Rick Robinson here. We are at the American Library Association 2025 edition. This is Zoom. Zoom, 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 zoom in the books. Philadelphia, PA. My next guest that I have here is so much fun because she's actually my good audience. She'll laugh at all my jokes. She's been doing so. She has been 15.
15! Oh my gosh.
I met our next author when she was in high school running track in West Virginia. I was about to sign my first publishing contract with her mother, who is the publisher of Headline Books. But now, Ashley, behold, you are now what we all long for. You have outgrown Headline Books. This is the story of this story makes me so happy.
Oh, thank you so much, Rick. That's
because
so nice.
I've known this young lady again since she's been in high school. She always had an eye for drawing. She always, when we would go to book shows, be sketching something, doing something out. And here she is as an author of children's books with the big news to announce.
Yes.
A 3-book deal from Random House.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
you got to tell me about this. How did this come about?
Well, first of all, Rick, I cannot believe that we have officially been friends for 20 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you didn't have to tell everybody that.
Oh my gosh. So, not 20 years ago, more like 10 years ago, I started writing my own stories, and I was so confident as an illustrator that I didn't really entertain the idea of writing and illustrating my own stories yet. So I spent several years illustrating for other people, which was fantastic, and I actually still do that. I love to do that. But I always wanted to tell my own stories and create artwork to go with words that I made both parts for. So, about 7 years ago, I got a literary agent, and I said, okay, now is the time. Let's put on our big girl pants and get some confidence and try this. So I sent her a manuscript with art, and she loved it. So ever since then, I have been creating stories with words and pictures put together. And I had this idea for a picture book, because that's the genre that I work in, called Squirrel Lock Holmes, and I thought that was like the greatest title ever. I think it is the greatest title ever. And it is really, really hard to write a mystery picture book because picture books are limited to about 500 words, 32 to 40 pages, and that's not a lot of space to establish, give clues, and solve a mystery. So I was struggling.
But you do
a
so
lot.
good on developing the characters
Yes.
just by the illustration.
Yes,
When
that's
I
very
see
true.
your illustration, I know more about the character than a chapter could ever tell me.
Well, thank you. That is very nice, and that definitely helps. So I played around with the manuscript for like 4 years. Could not make it work. So about 2 years ago in January, it was like you couldn't go outside, you couldn't do anything. I was working on this manuscript again, and something fell into my head from above and said, make it a graphic novel. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is the answer. So I completely flipped the entire thing around. I was able to flesh out the mystery to actually create we establish that something has gone wrong, we look for clues, we visit the scene of the crime, we use deductive reasoning, the whole nine, and turn it into a graphic novel. Sent it to my agent. She's like, oh my gosh, I love it. Sent it to my editor that day at Random House, and who I have worked on picture books with before. And my editor said, oh my gosh, I love this. And it was like one of the greatest days of my life. It took a lot longer for everything to play out, but eventually later that fall we signed a contract, and it's for 3 books which is very exciting. The first one will be out March 3rd.
I was just going to ask, when's the first book? When the first one coming out?
March 3rd, 2026, and I cannot wait. I just approved final art for the first book, so it is officially done and heading off to the presses, and I am waiting on sketch feedback for book 2, because I have learned that with graphic novels, they come out every 6 months in a series.
Okay.
Because the readers are eating these books up so fast right now. Like, librarians cannot keep them on the shelves. Teachers are loving the fact that some reluctant readers are finding that they love reading in graphic novels because they're so visual. So it's really becoming a very dominant genre, and I'm very excited.
There's a moment that stands out to me in your career.
Okay. Oh, I can't wait to hear what this is.
And it is wonderful for you. It is an embarrassment for me.
Well, that's good, I guess.
But we were at this conference, the American Library Association, when it was held in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
It was my turn to sign. I go down to the signature booth at the author section, and at the last minute, who shows up in the booth next to me? Henry Winkler.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The Fonz. So, sucked all the air out of the entire convention center. Nobody wanted to get a book signed by Rick Robinson.
Tough competition, yeah.
In fact, I actually spent most of the time pushing you around in a book carrier
cart. Yeah,
on a
we
cart.
had a really good time. That's one of my favorite pictures of us.
But the thing that I remember is, after everybody got out of line with Henry Winkler, you and I walked over to Henry Winkler. I talked to Henry Winkler. You talked to his illustrator and co-author, who is one of the more renowned illustrators. And I remember her being so impressed with your work.
It was amazing. So that's Lynn Oliver, his co-author. She is actually one of the founders of SCBWI, which is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And she is a powerhouse and a huge inspiration to a lot of children's book creators. And the fact that she was impressed with my work, I mean, come on.
When we finished that session, you were on cloud nine.
I still am from that conversation, by the way.
I remember walking around going, I'm at the Fonz, and you were around going,
I did too, but I also met Lynn Oliver, and she liked my artwork. So that was really great. I love that so much. We have had a lot of very exciting moments.
Did that give you the inspiration, though, to go on and keep pushing? When somebody like that sees your work and goes, I remember her exactly looking down and going, oh, I like what you've done with the eyes here.
Yes.
Now, I would have never looked, but obviously something about that caught her attention.
Yes. Well, you know, when you work in this business, you learn to pick up on certain trends and on certain things, and eyeballs, for whatever reason, is like always a hot topic in the illustration world. Should you use the whites of the eyes? Should you use dot eyes? What does it mean if you choose one or the other? So that's something like stylistically that's very important when you're creating like your illustration style. And it's something that you pick up on in other people's work almost immediately after having made those decisions for yourself. So I think that was probably, and you know, she's around so many book creators all the time. And these conversations that happen, you know, like which eyeball should I use, they filter in between authors and illustrators. So it's just kind of being in the know with that genre. And SCBWI in general is very inspiring. So the fact that like she started this organization that has begun so many careers is like phenomenal in and of itself. But SCBWI actually helped me get my start too. Not only from like meeting her there, but I did a portfolio review with an art director at one of their conferences, and that's how I ended up getting the deal to illustrate my first book, FRANKENSLIME, with Macmillan. So this organization that Lynn has, I mean, been such a big part of is just incredible too.
Now, we don't have to wait to see something by Ashley on the shelves. We don't have to wait for that graphic novel because we have Lighten Up Luella, we have FRANKENSLIME, and we have the current book, SHEEPWRECKED. Tell us a little bit about the children's book that you currently have out.
So Sheepwrecked is my newest book that came out from Random House last summer. It is about Captain Hoof and his crew of pirate sheep, and they get shipwrecked on a deserted island. Bahoy. The sheep. I knew you'd love that one. The sheep puns are real. Right?
No, yeah, I was going to say, how often do you get the sheep puns that come up from? Are they really bad?
Oh, they're the most beautiful things I hear every day. I was talking to a librarian just a few minutes ago, and this story is very much about teamwork, but it's also about friendship. And I said that, and I was like, I'm sorry, teamwork and friendship. Anyways, I digress. I love a pun.
I am so happy for your career. I could not be any more happy for anybody who has achieved what you've done in this business.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Oh, love that.
But somebody wants to find out about you, where do they go, Ash?
Yes, they can go to my website that is simply ashleybelote.com.
And, okay, the E is silent, so there's an E at the end. You got to come up with that, guys. BELOTE.com.
Yes.
And you can find out about the most wonderful illustrator that walks in the door every day at the American Library Association. Zoom into Books 2025. Thanks for being with us, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate it.
All right.